call to order this regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen for Monday, January 5th, 2026. Thank you all for coming. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, first selectmen's report, a couple of things. First of all, welcome back. Hope everyone had a nice holiday break. Right before the break, I attended it was an annual breakfast that Ed Gentile does for the Department of Public Works over at the DPW garage at 7 o'clock in the morning with a lot of breakfast sandwiches. They were pretty good. But I just wanted to compliment Ed and that whole group. It really is a terrific public works department. I get regular compliments on the work they do in town, and particularly given the fair bit of snow that we've had lately. I've had at least 2 residents come up and say, you know, the roads look terrific. They've done a great job, and just this last snowstorm, yeah, it looked great. So just kudos to Ed and the whole Department of Public Works team, that we do appreciate what they do. Later that evening, there was a menorah lighting for Hanukkah at the Grove Street Plaza. That was over several nights, but their big lighting and ceremony was that Wednesday. And Dan Guller organizes that every year with a great deal of enthusiasm and energy, and it keeps growing. Quite a number of us all turned out for that, and it was just a very nice event, and I think it was great of Dan to keep doing that, and I just wanted to extend a shout out to him. That was a lot of fun, and I was glad to be there, and he did a nice job. That was good stuff. Hopefully commuters noticed this morning, but at the Darien train station, the New York bound platform on the east side of the station opened up today. And that means that both the platforms on for the New York bound and for the New Haven bound side, those are all complete now, and commuters can use those. It also means that the western platforms are now going to be demolished, and that work should actually proceed more quickly since it's away from the train station and the elevators and all of that. But I'm thankful that the department is making good progress on finishing that project. I know there's been a lot of delays, and I've said in at least 2 videos now, we really appreciate everyone's patience with that, but they are clearly making progress, and one day this project will be done. We are still working on the signage and the intake of the Coons lot that the town purchased and finished buying in November, and Jennifer will talk a little bit more about that, but that's being slowly integrated into our parking family, if you will. On the 22nd, there was a terrific tribute at the Darien Sports Shop that Jamie Stevenson and several others organized for Joe Warren. If anybody was there for that, it was his 48th year, 48 years that he's been doing that same thing at the Darien Sports Shop. If that's not an institution in Darien, I don't know what is, although there are a lot of institutions in this town, so maybe I shouldn't be so quick to say that. But it was a huge turnout. We did a proclamation for him. Tracy Morrow was there, and it was just very, very nice to thank him for being part of the Christmas spirit in town. It was a lot of fun to be there. And he had some classmates that said stuff that came up to me later and said, well, we had a lot of other stories that we were going to tell, but we decided not to tell those stories publicly. So anyway, I said, well, could you tell me those stories? And apparently the answer was still no. So, but a lot of fun. And then on January 1st at 11 o'clock, I went down to, but not fully participate in the Polar Plunge, 4th annual Polar Plunge at the Norotan Yacht Club. And yes, there was quite the crowd of people that put on their bathing suits and went into this water. A few of them actually lingered for quite a while. But fortunately, there were no medical intervention was required. I did appreciate that the Post 53 team was there in force in case there was a problem, but it was a lot of fun to see all that. So if you, whether you want to just watch or actually participate, I'm sure they will have that next year. And then finally, I wanted to note the passing of Bill Wright. Bill was a longtime member of a lot of different activities in town, and particularly the Coastal Advisory Commission, as well as the Environmental Protection Commission. He passed away on December 29th after a brief illness. Very sad about that, but I did want to just acknowledge that sad event. That is all from me. Does anyone have any questions? Okay.
John?
Yes.
On the train, will the doors open All the doors will open now? Do you know?
No, that's not a great question. Only the front part of the train, it'll be the same problem.
Okay.
Because actually, if you're New York bound, it's going to be the back part of the train that opens. Or I'm not sure how Metro North is actually doing that now, but you don't have the full length of the platform, so that's still a problem. That's a good question. Thank you. Okay. Board liaison report, Sarah.
For the Thriving Youth Darien, they had their last meeting in November. The next meeting is on Thursday the 15th. They're going to be presenting the survey results to the community on Wednesday the 21st at 7 p.m. on Zoom, and it's a workshop facilitated by Rebecca Campbell and Amanda Craig. And then on Monday the 26th at 7 p.m. at St. Luke's, they're going to be having a youth presentation and discussion of the survey results. And so high school students can attend, and anyone can also attend. For the Henley Homes and Royal Building Committee, our next meeting will be on Wednesday the 15th at 6 p.m. on Zoom. We're excited. We're entering our last year of the construction, and with it aiming to be finished by the time the students come in September, well, late August, September. So it's very exciting. Things just seem to be moving very well. So.
Yeah, your emails, agendas, and all the stuff that you send around to keep us updated on that, I just want to say is excellent, and I appreciate that.
Oh, good.
Yeah, very good. Mike?
So on Great Island, we had a brief hiatus for work on 23A, but that is starting back up. And we had some spaces for parking over at Pear Tree, and that project now will need all of that space. So if you want to visit Great Island, and we hope you will, the island is still open from 4 o'clock on during the week until dusk, which isn't that
About
long.
30 minutes.
Yeah, it's a little short window there, but that's going to change soon. But it's still open on the weekends. And we are looking forward to opening bids for the streamlined early access project on January 15th.
Great. Okay, that's great. Marcy?
Sure. Mental Health Task Force has not met since our last meeting, but I do want to remind everybody we are getting into the dog days of winter, which happen to be times that people definitely struggle with mental health and suicide ideation. So please, if you have a family member or you yourself are struggling, we have a ton of resources through our Human Services Department. Reach out to Allie. You can get on our website. There's all kinds of providers that can help assess you and give you some services. So many blessings to those who are trying to get through the difficult times of winter. Pear Tree Point Building Committee meets for our second meeting on Wednesday via Zoom at 4 o'clock. I did go down to Pear Tree this afternoon, take a look at things, and things are moving very quickly and lots of activity down there. So be patient. We did lose the 15 parking spots for Great Island. The parking lot is completely closed. It's being ripped up. All great stuff. The dredging is happening. So hopefully, the dredging should be done by the end of the month. And then they'll start really with the raising of the parking lot and the extension of the beach. So keep eyes out. It's an exciting project.
Terrific. Okay, Mike?
Blight Review has not met since our last meeting, but we will be meeting on January 14th. So we'll have a report at the next Selectmen meeting.
Okay, terrific. Very good. Does anyone have any public comments to offer up this evening? Okay, Jennifer, do we have any by email?
No, we do not.
So no public comments today, very good. All right, new business. Discuss and take action on proposed revisions to fire marshal fees. Jennifer.
You have in your packet the proposed fees that we are asking you to approve, and we do have the fire marshal here to give an overview of the fee changes and answer any questions you may have.
All right, so about 8 years ago, we did a fee increase and added a bunch of fees to our fee schedule. The biggest one was 1/2 of the building permit fee for any commercial or other occupancy that falls under our jurisdiction for inspections for any type of construction that's done. And that's pretty much the meat and potatoes of our revenue. Our other permits that we do, tanks increases, propane tanks, liquor permits, licensing for daycare centers, healthcare facilities, assisted living facilities, camps, bonfires that we get occasionally, sparklers, and then other plan review fees for things that occur not during a normal building permit, for like a commercial kitchen for a new hood system, for fire suppression, fire alarm system, new installations or upgrades on systems. So we've increased some of those fees. And we went through a lot of the other towns that charge fees. Oddly, there isn't a lot of fees similar to us in this local area. And a lot of fees have not, I noted, that hadn't been increased in several years in other communities. But we felt it was time, what it costs for our time out there, and with the addition of with more staffing for our office, we also felt that this should help offset some of the cost of what it is to staff.
Okay. Yeah, I noticed that there were not a lot of towns that had sort of similar fees, or maybe that information wasn't available, and even our current fees seem higher than quite a few of those other towns, but I don't know.
I mean, we've kind of been in line with whatever we can find,
Right.
and it's really tough, and it's really odd when you ask the question of other fire marshal's offices. No, we don't charge.
Oh, they don't charge.
They don't. A lot of them don't have fees for stuff. They don't charge for stuff, and sometimes a lot of it is covered. I think maybe covered under like building permit, like separate fees through the
Got it.
building department, which we didn't really try to chase down. And
Or maybe their aggregate building fee is just much higher because it just assumes that it covers all those separate costs.
Yeah.
Okay. And are most of these permits just one time, say for a development, or they're annual?
a lot of them are one-times, like the fuel tank installations, the propane rack storage, propane refill stations. Those are all a one and done.
Let's say liquor permits. or
Liquor
maybe-
permits are an annual. Temporary liquor permits are as they occur. Daycare centers are annuals. Assisted living are annuals.
Okay. All right. I mean, these cover a lot of our costs, and to your point in the memo, we've got more of those costs, just given the sheer volume of commercial facilities we have, not just being developed, but that have to operate and be inspected later, so it makes sense to me. Any questions for Bobby?
Yeah, Bobby, I have a couple. On some of this you have, well, on my screen, it's showing in red. So lodging and rooming houses, you have $50, and then you have dorm 100. What does that mean?
I'm sorry. Lodging and rooming house is $50,
Well, they've got a couple colleges there.
and then the fee increase is
And they
going to
charge
75.
differently.
Okay. Okay, and then under tents, is it,
The 4 hour.
yeah, how does that?
So what happens is a lot of times is we find that tent permits are being done, they're calling for an inspection on a Thursday or a Friday, whenever, and we do normal inspections on Fridays, and they're not ready.
Got it.
Everything's not ready, everything's not done. We have to come back either in the evening, we have to come back on Saturday, we have to come back on Sunday, whatever. So it's a cost to the town for somebody to go out there, and it's a minimum 4 hour callback charge for union staff. So we are putting that cost back on them as well. It's actually seemed to have helped to ensure that they seem to be ready a lot more often too.
Right. These are, percentage-wise, they're hefty hikes. I understand it's from 2017. So I have two last thoughts. One is, do you think 2 weeks is enough time? And also, could we take a look at having like these fees looked at
More regularly?
more regularly and all at once, so that every other meeting, we're not, approving increases in fees, or not every other meeting, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, we can try to batch them together. And even if there's no change, come and say we've evaluated and we don't recommend a
Right.
change. I think we should be doing that on a yearly basis,
Okay,
whether a change or no change.
right, okay. And then you think, Bobby, 2 weeks is enough time?
2 weeks is the minimum by town charter, from which something can go into effect. So it's, we'll put it on our website. The last time we did this, the 15-day notice seemed to be sufficient. Not everybody sees it, but they get it.
Okay, and then, I'm sorry, I did have one last one. You had a state, maybe it's blasting?
Blasting permit?
Yeah.
Yeah, $60, that's set by state regulation.
Do you know the last time that number has changed?
It is in excess of 20 years.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
Other questions for Bobby? Okay. Motion to approve the proposed revisions to the fire marshal fees as proposed. Mike moves, Monica seconds, all in favor? Okay, Bobby, thank you. That's great.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Bob.
Next up for new business, discuss and take action to approve an easement for Eversource at Parklands Drive. Jennifer.
I am actually going to recommend that we table this. What you have in your packet was proposed language from Eversource. We did try to push back and get them to make some revisions regarding tree removal, landscaping. They flat out said no, this is kind of their template. But then, excuse me, based off of a question from Amy Zavatakis regarding traffic signals and lights.
Which were requested in their easement language.
Right, that was part of their standard boilerplate. Curtis Brinkerhoff reached back to Eversource. Eversource has indicated that they're willing to remove that reference to traffic signals, but we don't have updated easement language to put before you. And also, she's been working with the developer's attorney to have them have some kind of an agreement that they will do maintenance and repair if there's any tree removal, landscaping impact from Eversource. So we just received the draft of those probably at like 6 o'clock today. So I wasn't comfortable having you vote on anything that short notice or without complete information.
All right, so that makes sense, and we've been through that today. I think those two issues, once they get resolved, we'll actually have updated paperwork to vote on, and Jennifer's right, we really can't discuss this today. So I agree that we should just table this until our next meeting, unless anyone has a suggestion to the contrary.
I wouldn't suggest to the contrary, because if there are more things to consider, we should, but in this interim, period, I wouldn't have an objection if it was communicated that to Eversource that there's at least some of us that are looking at this easement in a very negative view. I don't have any problem saying that. I feel that they're just, this is our template, well, this is our property, and we're not just going to fork it over, in my view.
Mm-hmm.
So to the extent that it could be communicated to them that maybe they ought to look at that language from, we'll consult with you to seek our approval.
And that was
would
the
go a
kind of
long way.
language that we were going
Looking
for.
for.
Good.
And it was just a flat out denial.
Denials
They're not
work both
easy,
ways.
right? Yeah, they're not easy.
But I will pass it along to Curtis Brinkerhoff and ask them to communicate to
Yeah,
Eversource.
I agree with Mike's sentiment. I mean, and certainly Monica doesn't need a reminder of this, but the amount of tree-related drama that we've all had to put up with, probably Monica first among all of us, caused directly by Eversource, is frankly shocking. And it's not just shocking to us, it was shocking to the residents on Littlebrook and multiple streets around town who've seen their properties decimated by the fact that Eversource has just come down and wantonly cut landscaping that
Clear
a
cut.
reasonable person would look and say, that was not necessary for you to achieve your objectives in terms of what you were trying to do,
Agreed.
to cut all that stuff down. So I think I would echo Mike's sentiments that this really is unreasonable. I'd only say, I guess, two things on to add to that. One of them is that when you actually talk to Eversource people when they come out, particularly Chris, and you have one other guy, Matt, that I've actually seen in action at people's homes, trying to help them and come to an agreement as to what gets taken down. Those people were very reasonable in their approach and got to a resolution that I think at least the few homeowners that I dealt with, sort of post Littlebrook, was a lot better than what we've experienced previously. The only other thing about this particular easement is this is not the town and Eversource negotiating an easement. This is an easement for the town that's for this developer, and they're trying to move along this property, and in a way they don't have a choice. There's a few other options that we might consider with some of this, but Jennifer and I talked about today, but I'll push this personally, both with Curtis Brinkerhoff and my contacts at Eversource, and say we need to get to a better solution for this to protect what you guys need to be able to do, while ensuring that our neighbors and the folks who depend on landscaping and trees that have been there for a long time can keep them unless it's absolutely necessary to take them down.
I 100% would echo that, John. my feeling is anytime you hand an easement over to them, they would just come and clear cut any trees. There's a lot of neighbors there. There's a lot going on. It's really unfair, and I understand that developer really needs this, and I can appreciate that genuinely, and I know we want to get that parcel developed, but the way that they've handled these situations in the past has led us all to be very frustrated. This is not you, Jim. I know you're the bearer of the bad news. It's like, don't shoot the messenger, but we appreciate. I know Monica had something to say also.
Yeah, so Jen, I would say, I think, when they put things in this agreement, like after consultation with the grantor, when practical, trim and keep trim, cut and remove such trees or shrubbery as in the judgment on the grantee are necessary to maintain. When practical, like, that's just,
That's Latin for no, we're not going to do it.
Yeah, and that it goes against the spirit of trying to work with them. And I would also just say that, when we look at whatever they're going to do in response to taking down trees, it shouldn't be a 1-for-1. I think over at Little Brook, it worked out to be, I think it was about a 4-to-1 as far as trees and bushes to everyone that was taken down. And it should be an 18-month sort of maintenance plan. 1 year, they replace whatever didn't make it, and then 6 months later, they replace. And I personally think it should be on Eversource, but I think there should be a planting plan that should be shown to, probably to Public Works for sign-off on it. And I think it should be under Eversource's responsibility. But I appreciate the developer offering to take it on.
I have a quick question.
Go.
I know that on your, I'm sorry. Jack Davis, 197 Hoyt Street. I know in what was proposed in the agenda, you said you wanted this on the RTM agenda at the end of the month. Should we, I'm going to rules, should we still keep it on the agenda for the end of the month, and then we can always withdraw it if you're not ready for it?
So our next meeting is going to be the 20th, and so we will be...
26th, actually.
26, yeah.
And that's the night of the
Oh,
meeting.
I'm sorry, I'm looking
Yeah.
at...
Oh, there are
let's
no
see.
meetings the same night.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's the same
This is
night.
always the last Monday.
So,
No.
Are you willing to entertain a special meeting before then if we get finalized documents?
Yes.
if we had finalized documents, yes, I suspect that the conversations we're going to have to make this point clear to them. Might take some time, but
Yeah.
I'll start on that tomorrow.
Okay, so I'll make sure it's still on
Leave
the
it,
agenda.
Yeah.
and you guys
Okay.
table it if you can't get to it, so, because we haven't approved it, so. okay.
Amy's been working on this, and I think
Yes, she
she's the
has.
only
She's
committee
great.
that's really going to be dealing with this.
And I think,
So-
well, I think she said she's meeting on Thursday.
Yeah, I think she is as well.
So she
Well-
might not have full.
And she's going to
Final
want,
documents.
she feels like she's like-minded on this type of
I would
topic,
agree.
so
Right.
she's going to want to see this as well.
All right, I'm going to see her down there so I can speak to her about it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Thanks, Jack.
We still need a motion to table this until the future. Sarah moves.
So
Mike's-
moved.
So moved. Sarah moves. Mike seconds. All in favor? Okay, tabled. All right, next up is discuss and take action to approve the sidewalk committee charge. So those materials were posted later, simply because I didn't finish them, but we've got printouts here, and they are available online. So I've posted a couple of things. One of them is a draft mission and mandate for the committee itself, and I'll review that in a moment. The second is something we don't have to vote on, but this is some materials that were started by Ed long ago and our sidewalk consultant recently, and then I've spent some time revising this. But this is the structure that I'm proposing that the sidewalk committee use to evaluate the locations for sidewalks that they're going to consider. So I'll get to that in a minute, but maybe the main thing is for me to just walk briefly through the mission and mandate. This committee would be established as a follow-on to the Pedestrian Infrastructure Advisory Committee from 10 years ago, and that the key features of this that I think are going to be different, it's really to advance the discussion on sidewalks, because a lot of the sidewalks that were proposed in that pedestrian infrastructure report were in fact implemented. A lot of the crosswalks were not, because they were infeasible according to professional standards articulated by the police. And so the way we would actually do this committee differently is, one is to have this evaluation matrix, so it's not just coming up with a list of sidewalks, that they do a study for each of them that helps prioritize them for our purposes, since we're the ones who have to propose capital spending for all this. But they would also work with this BSC group that we've hired that's helped us with all this, to assist them in both identifying sidewalks and applying this evaluative process. So the main mission in terms of mandate is going to be around assessing candidate sidewalk locations, both for sidewalk extensions and new sidewalks. Part of that process is going to be to get as much input from residents and town departments as possible. So that would be a big charge of this committee. The scoring matrix, if you kind of look at it, what I did was set it up to where a low score means that's a sidewalk we would want to go ahead and build. So if you see the categories I've got here, you've got the environment that the sidewalk would be located in. So things like road busyness, how busy and how much traffic is on the road, and how fast is that traffic. Another area is just the impact the sidewalk would have. So is it going to be more than 100 pedestrians a day or something much less than that? Sidewalk destination, does the sidewalk take you to some place that people want to go to? Does it provide connectivity to destinations or other sidewalks? Another important one is interest. How intense is the general public interest for this sidewalk? Or contrarily, how great is property owner resistance? We may have some of that just because people either don't want sidewalks in front of their house, or they don't want to shovel sidewalks, that sort of thing, or they don't want to give up an easement. And then finally, what I would characterize as cost drivers. So is it a town versus a state road? Do we require easements, and how hard are they going to be able to get? Do we have to deal with trees, above ground Eversource utility poles, traffic signals, other obstructions, terrain grading, all of that? And I've scaled it such that if you assigned it a low number, like a 1, then this is a busy road with lots of speeding, with tons of pedestrians who want to use it. We don't require any easements. There's no trees to remove, and it's perfectly flat. Okay, we're going to do that sidewalk, right? But if it's the opposite, then we need to think about that, because that sidewalk is going to be difficult and expensive. So each proposed sidewalk, we would ask the committee to use this scoring grid, and I'm happy to get additional input in terms of how this is structured, and they would fill that out. In addition, following up on Sarah's suggestion, I've got a preliminary list of expenses, say concrete cost per linear foot, asphalt cost per foot, terrain work per square foot, easements, legal, crosswalk installation. We need to refine those costs, but they would use this to say for each location or proposed sidewalk location, can we ballpark what the cost would be for that? So that would be included as part of this. And the last page, these are made up numbers, but you can see what a completed template would look like. So here's all the scoring, the basic description of the sidewalk, and a preliminary budget depending on how long it is, how complicated it is, and you can see just an example here. So I think the committee might actually update and refine what I've produced here, but it gives them a starting point to actually do this that I think works. And then finally, just for the committee charges, so using the scoring matrix like it says there, working with the BSC group to identify and evaluate each sidewalk, prepare recommendations for the Board of Selectmen, which will include budgeting, and then the Board of Selectmen would take it from that point, decide which ones we want to invest in, refine the cost estimates, and actually incorporate that into our capital budgeting process. Importantly, if they're going to propose sidewalk or crosswalks, the committee should get sign-off for each proposed location by the police, because those guys have a sense for when crosswalks work and when they don't. And I think that'll actually save a lot of time, because anytime we see a recommended crosswalk, we'll know that the police and the local traffic authority, depending on how they want to get involved, has signed off and says that meets professional standards. And then finally, I would say that these guys, the committee should focus on sidewalks and pedestrian infrastructure, and that we should limit that scope and not include things like bikes, e-bikes, e-scooters, and bike lanes, which is a more complicated discussion. So that's what I propose and have summarized at a high level. Does anyone have any questions, comments?
I I like the setup with the mission, et cetera. I think the matrix is logical. I don't know if there's just some other wording in the categorization between none, some, and lots. Maybe
So-
like a low, medium, or high, or just, I mean, I get what it is that we're saying, but for the committee to make those words like a little more.
That's fair. So what I've done for these things in the past is I would take this, and it would be a 3 or 4 page document, which I'm willing to write, but for each square, so that's at an intersection of, say, property owner resistance and 1, there's a little sentence in the square that says, if you're going to rate that a 1, this is what you have to believe.
Okay.
Or if it's a 2 or it's a 3, just like in a personnel
Yeah.
evaluation.
Mm-hmm.
I could do that, quite frankly, I ran out of time, but I will, before the committee gets started, I'll craft something like that so that when they're assessing this, it's not going to be entirely subjective. It's going to be
Yeah.
objective that said, all right, I put in a 3. All right, well, did you actually believe these words? And that's not hard to do, but it gives you language where you can actually say, all right, if this really is a 5, then this is an extreme case, and I'm not just guessing that it's a 5. So I will do that, and that'll make that work more
Great.
precise. Okay.
And John, each one of these is equal weighted, right?
So in the proposal from the BSC group, what they did was they had all of the scoring, and then they had a spreadsheet that would assign a weighting to the group of scores. I went through and looked at that, and I really couldn't justify weighting any one of these more or less than the other. I mean, maybe you could kind of do that, but it makes this process a little more complicated. And so I thought, let's just simplify this and strip that out, and let's just assign scores, and let's fiddle with it. I mean, the committee's not going to finish their work all at once. They may come back to us and say, based on what we're hearing from residents, we went out to the sites and looked at these places, we actually might weight this a little bit differently to change the way we're coming up to an outcome. So, good point, and I'd let the committee give us some input on that, where that's necessary.
I mean, certain things like easements, like there might be a sidewalk that, you're just not going to get the easements on. So how long do you pursue something like that? And is that a factor in and of itself?
Well, because of eminent domain, we can get the easements that we want. It's just a question of how long it takes to get them, but that's not because of the way the Constitution's set up, that's not something we're going to lose. We will get the easements we need. The question is brain damage to get that done, right? We've had to pursue that before. There were some residents on White Street that did not want that sidewalk before and said specifically no to granting an easement. And so we were going to have to pursue eminent domain to get those easements. And so those are really financial factors in a sense, because at a minimum, you'd have to pay someone for the easement based on a market value assessment of their property, and because it's a little strip, it's not much. But if we have to go through eminent domain, and I'll get town council to help us refine those costs, that just adds to the cost of the sidewalk. So you can look at the scoring of the sidewalk based on these cost factors, but ultimately how that really manifests itself is in the budget for that particular location. So things like easement acquisition or managing train, all of that's going to have to be remediated in some way, and that's going to be reflected in a budget number. And so once we have all that, we just take a step back and say, well, these people really want this sidewalk. We look at these costs, just like the one up on Mansfield. Do we really want to spend that much money? And if there's a great deal of resident intensity, we really want that sidewalk, we got to take that into account.
Right.
These people really want that, and we got to syndicate that big budget number in town and say, look, team, do we want to do this or not?
Right. My only last thought was, you have tree removal, and I know that we always replace trees. I know that that number is much smaller, but can you just add tree
Yeah.
replacement and removal?
Yep, I can do that. Thank you.
I'm sure there's a list somewhere of locations that people have asked for in the past. Do we kind of keep tabs? For example, the crosswalk that's been requested many times up by the Town Winchell.
We
Station.
have the pedestrian infrastructure advisory report from 2015. I believe that one is in there.
Okay.
Ed, I don't know if he keeps a running list of where he gets requests. He has there are locations in town that are on a schedule where we've got to renew or repave, just like the ones on Nearwater, that type of things. We have something like that. I've had since I flashed that we might be doing this, I've had 4 or 5 requests. Mostly it's up on the one on Mansfield.
Yeah.
There's a connector between the Post Road and Mansfield on Sedgwick. Some people want that, and I think that's actually teed up. So there's 3 or 4 of them. What I'm hopeful is that by putting this committee in place, and especially if we start to market this, that it's going to serve as a lot more suggestions for
I'm
that.
sure.
So, and one other on Old Kings Highway South, I've had that suggestion as well. So, no, but yes, we're going to get a lot more of that. That's really a big
Okay.
charge of this committee, is to surface those suggestions.
Yeah.
Okay? Other comments?
Just questions, how many committee members are we looking for this?
I would say 5 to 7.
5 to 7. And do we have skill sets that were, just for the public to know?
This is one of those things where I don't think we need a ton of skill sets on this, only because we're working with a consulting group on this that's done this kind of work in the past. Ed Gentile is going to be tightly connected with this as well, as am I. So I think that what I really want is committee members from different parts of town, or I'd like some school parents associated with this. I'd like some folks who are mobility challenged. I'd like that type of thing. I'd rather have interest groups as opposed to particular skill sets. And if we cast a wide net, get a lot of candidates, we'll be able to get the diversity I think we need to really get good suggestions on sidewalks.
Okay, great.
Mike, anything from you?
That's
Nothing else? Okay.
Yeah, a lot of work into this, John.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think this is important, so I've got I'll put a lot of time into this. So what I would like to do though is, I think the mission and mandate, I kind of like that. What I'd like to do is just approve, let's see, we approved creation of the Conservation Committee, but not this committee. So what I'd like to do is to formally create the we approved the sidewalk.
Yeah.
We haven't done this mission.
We
for you
created
guys.
the
Yeah, we
sidewalk.
created the committee, but not the mission, and I'd like to formally start to pursue membership. I've actually reached out to both the RTC and DTC to let them know that we'd like members for this. So I'll push that along and hopefully have candidates that we can interview as soon as possible. So if you're comfortable, we could vote on this mission and mandate for the sidewalk committee tonight. Does that work for you? Mission, could I get a motion to approve the draft mission and mandate for the Board of Selectmen Advisory Sidewalk Committee? Mike moves, Marcy seconds. Great, okay. All right, so we're all set for that. So what I will do on this is I will push candidates and try to get them for us to interview as soon as possible. I am going to, I'm going to create this little matrix that makes decision-making on the scorecard a lot more precise, and I think that's it. Okay, great, thank you. All right, next up is discuss and take, no, that's sidewalk. Yeah, we did sidewalk charge, sorry. Update on Town Americans with Disabilities Act improvements, Jennifer.
I think it was back in September that the WT group gave their presentation to you. We've been doing a lot of work on ADA since then. Some of it related to their actual audits, some related to other compliance and information that we need to provide. So I just wanted to give you an update. I'm planning to have kind of a quarterly update. There may be quarters that we don't have anything to report, but I think it's important that we stay focused on everything we need to do with ADA. So first thing, we have created a web page within the town website for Americans with Disabilities Act information. We have posted the town's commitment to accessibility. We have added required information, which is a Title II notice and a Title II grievance procedure. So those are out there for people. And we've put out the ADA, the audit final report and presentation that was presented to you in September by the WT group. Other things we've done, out of the audit findings, I've sat down with the relevant departments. They have started incorporating all of those audit findings into the 6-year capital plan. So what you'll see in the budget, the capital budget, in addition to all of our normal department 6-year plans, we're now going to have an ADA 6-year plan that breaks it down by police, Parks and Rec, DPW, so you can see for each of those departments, but we're going to have all of the ADA in one place. We don't have much requested in fiscal '27, because we're just kind of ramping up, but you'll see a lot more in the out years. And then those departments are tracking as they get things budgeted, as they're complete, we're tracking it against those audit reports with all of the list of findings. There are a few small things that don't rise to the level of capital, so in a couple of departments, we're creating in the fiscal '27 budget an ADA improvements object line within their operating budget, again, so that we can pull out exactly what we're doing on ADA and not lose it in the mix of other facility improvements and that sort of thing. So you see a lot of that in the budget. Other things that we're doing, website compliance. This is not something that WT Group was tasked with or went into. They were looking at physical structures. But our website needs to be ADA compliant by April 2027. That's just based on our size. We're less than 50,000. If we were more than 50,000, we'd have to be compliant April of this year. Couple things that we've done towards that. If you go onto our website, you'll see a little blue icon in the bottom right corner. It's this system called Audio Eye, and it's an accessibility tool, so people can personalize their experience on that, change colors, change some of the other ways that the website appears to make it easier for them to be able to view it. But then it also scans our site for non-compliant documents or other things, and it kind of overlays a correction on those. It doesn't correct the underlying document or anything, but it does make them compliant if somebody is on there. If we remove the system, those would no longer be compliant, but it overlays a fix on things. We looked at a couple of different things, and just based on the resources that we have available, we can't go in and fix all of the existing things, so we went this route. It's something that you'll see in the budget's about $4,500 or $5,000. I'm working on standards for documents and presentations that are posted to the website to make sure that anything we're putting out there is ADA compliant. Once I have those, we'll have to train employees on it and inform our outside consultants that may have reports or presentations or something that they give to us that even if they're generated outside, if they're going on our website, they need to be ADA compliant. And then the last area related to meetings, if you look at your agenda, created standard language on all the agendas stating how to request a reasonable accommodation, and that's been shared with all boards and commissions, and they're required to put that on there. We haven't received any requests yet, but at least if somebody pulls up the agenda, they know how to request that. And then the screens here in 119 and in the auditorium are all set up to be able to provide closed captioning. So if we have someone hearing impaired in the meeting, we can turn on closed captioning. It'll capture everything that we're having and displayed on the screens. RTM has been using closed captioning on a regular basis whenever they have their screen up, so it's been working well for them. And then the final thing was as the ADA coordinator, I attended a ADA online conference through the Connecticut ADA Coalition. And then they also provide training that is necessary to get credentials for ADA coordinator role. So I'm working on that. And that's what we've been doing.
Do you anticipate any significant budget request for ADA compliance measures in the upcoming budget season?
In the upcoming one, no. A little sneak preview of that. The Park and Rec Department has 2 requests, but they're breaking them into kind of a design component and then the construction component the following year. So in 27, I don't even think it totals $200,000 that we're requesting. A lot of it is the departments are still trying to wrap their head around everything that needs to be done and do some planning. So the higher dollars will be in the out years.
Yeah, the only thing I would say is that the number of very small compliance failures that were noted in the audit at Weed Beach, just for little stuff everywhere, really suggests a failure on the part of that contractor. And as that project comes together for fixing all of that, I'd hope they would reach out to those folks and say, I mean, yes, it's been a while since we built all that, but the reality is that it was shockingly bad. I mean, they missed literally everything, and there's just simply no excuse for that. They really ought to, they should be ashamed.
Yeah, it's surprising how many that were found there. What we're trying to do, and haven't quite solved it yet, in our bids and RFPs, we are saying that, you know, the design has to be ADA compliant, construction has to be ADA compliant. But what we haven't quite figured out yet, because I'm certainly not going to go out there with a level and be able to confirm that it's compliant, is if we need to start requiring some kind of, if it even exists, a third-party sign-off that it's been constructed correctly, or, you know, how do we confirm that it's been constructed correctly? Because there's a lot of stories out there that we said it had to be ADA compliant, you told us it was, we thought it was, it's really not. That's kind of a nationwide issue. Yeah.
In our contract language, does it exist, or can we insert it, language that forces the contractor to warrant or provide a warranty for for construction done to ADA standards?
Yeah,
right? Because then what would happen is it would be on them or their financial exposure if they don't do it right.
Yeah, let me talk to Curtis Brinkerhoff about that and see.
Or maybe other
Or maybe they
municipalities.
could post a bond.
Post a bond, or maybe other municipalities have started to worry about this and
Yeah,
and
some
wanted
of
to
them
get
are
their-
further along than we are.
Well, that's okay. We're getting started on this process, but maybe we can just copy and paste some of that stuff. That might be a way to solve that. Okay, questions for Jen on this?
Thank you, Jen.
Okay,
You're welcome.
very good. Old business, discuss and take action to finalize the advisory Conservation Commission charge. So that has also been passed around. When I sent this, it occurred to me that there were some edits from you that I don't have.
Okay.
And I don't know what happened to them, and I apologize for that. I did get some edits from Bill Cavers and a couple other people, and so I tried to incorporate those in this. If your edits are extensive, then we should wait, incorporate them, and let everyone read them, and do this at the next meeting. Do
I
you have
think so.
extensive edits?
No, but I think that's a good idea.
Fine, all right.
I had a couple wordsmithing things, but then the basic structure and purpose is fine. We
Okay.
Literally a wordsmith here and there.
Right.
Okay, all right. So we will table this and pick this up at the end of the month then. And so if you could get those and then send them to me so I can incorporate them, I'll send them around to everybody, make sure everyone's okay with this, and then we will vote on this in 3 weeks. Okay.
Yeah. I'll get them to you tomorrow.
Not anytime in the next 3 weeks would be fine. Could I get a motion, please, to table consideration of the Advisory Conservation Committee mission and mandate? Sarah moves, Marcy seconds, all in favor? Fine. All right. Next up is update on parking authority business, update on 37 West Avenue. Jennifer.
Good news, Pay by App is up and running. It was supposed to be open today. They actually opened it earlier than we wanted, and we had them shut it down. But I've sent them a reminder that we wanted to open today after the holiday weekend. So we'll be kind of communicating to everybody that the preference is to pay by app. Bob, our attendant who's there, he has agreed to stay on through January so that he can start directing
whole year?
people. Just through the end of this
Oh,
month.
got it. Okay. I was like, through January of what?
Just for the month.
Yeah.
So that he can start directing people. If they bring him a cash or check, he can direct them to the app. We are working to get the pay station kiosk so that it can have the multiple zones on that, but that requires some programming, so we have a service request in for that. But given what's going on with the platforms and how accessible the pay stations are, we want people to use the app anyway. It's going to be the easiest option for them. We have drafted a series of FAQs. Once they're finalized, we're going to kind of paper everybody's windshield with them, put them online, blast them out in the newsletter, social media, that sort of thing, because we have received a lot of questions about what are you going to do with the lot, you know, what's going on. So we want to answer those questions for the people who park there as well as just the general town people. But by the end of the month, we should be fully switched over to everybody paying by app or going over to the pay station. And we're going to begin having our rangers doing enforcement in there later in January.
That's great.
That's it.
Well, it's
Question?
pretty busy.
It is.
Yeah. It's really busy.
Okay, very good. Right. Transfers. Discuss and take action on a request to transfer $17,400 from contingency for appraisal services.
Tony Homicki, our assessor, is here, but just to give a little summary of it. Our assessor has reached out to Karen and Fazio and received a quote for them to do appraisal services for four large commercial properties: Heights Crossing, 3 Parklands Drive, 1 Thorndale, and Corbin 2, with the cost of $17,400. The idea on this is by having these appraisals done early on, it will head off a lot of the back and forth and the legal fees associated with challenges to the assessments and valuations. And just for some context, I went and looked, and on just our most recent tax settlement, we spent about $63,000 on that one property. So Tony is here. He can provide a little more information on it and answer any questions you might have.
Good evening, Happy New Year.
Thank you for coming, sir.
This is really a deeper dive. It's mass appraisal is a little different with what we are required to do by state statute. This would bring in a fee appraiser to anticipate what the contract rents will be in concert with the market rents to help define and defend the values not only for this coming year, but over the next 2 or 3 years for over $400 million in projects that are ongoing. So it is a deeper dive. It gives integrity, a little more integrity to the process, opens up an exchange of discussion with the developers and the property owners, and I think it's very cost effective.
Very forward thinking. I think it's a great idea.
Yep.
Yeah, it
Tony,
is.
are you good on just one appraisal? This isn't a situation where we need 2?
We're going to be starting out with more of an oral observation. We don't want to expend a full narrative appraisal work.
Okay.
So that's really, this contract really just gives confidence to where the contract leases are coming from, talking with the property owner and anticipating changes that might occur between now and when occupancy, focusing on a stabilized value once 100% occupancy occurs. So we shouldn't have any litigation at all on it.
Great.
So, yeah.
Okay. So just to summarize, the basic difference between the appraisals at the front end of the process and what you're talking about here is these are just a lot more detailed looks at these properties, just given the potential for litigation and the value of the properties. It's not something you do normally, but in this case we would.
Exactly.
Okay. No, I think I agree with Monica. I think that's a good idea. Questions for Tony? Okay. Could I get a motion to approve the transfer of $17,400 from contingency for appraisal services and recommend same to the Board of Finance? Sarah moves, Monica seconds. All in favor? Great.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tony. I appreciate that. All right. Next up is to approve minutes for the December 15th, 2025 meeting. I have read through these and they look fine to me. Does anyone have any edits or comments to the minutes from December 15th? Motion to approve. Monica moves, Mike seconds, all in favor? Okay, minutes are approved. All right, agenda review, approach for bike and scooter safety. I have nothing to add right now, but keeping that on our list in case somebody has got something they want to consider or there's a resident concern that we should address. I'm perfectly fine doing that. Does anyone have anything to add or change for agenda review? Okay. Next meeting, we've got a Zoom meeting on Monday, January 26th, and that will be followed by the department heads meeting the next morning at 8:30 on Tuesday, January 27th.
Jen, when will we get the budget?
I am planning to give you the overview on January 26th, and we'll share files with you and give you access at that point, and then I think we're scheduled for
The following
reviews
week.
in February 9th to 11th.
Oh, is it? Oh, I
Yeah.
thought it was next week. Okay, that's right.
So you have a little time to look them over.
Okay. All right, there being no other business, can I get a motion to adjourn? Sarah moves, Mike seconds, all in favor? We stand adjourned. Thank you, friends.